Welcome back in, guys. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Venting with Us with your girl, Christelle. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. Um, this is my type of weather. I've already got into a whole argument with a man yesterday. As I was going into the supermarket, he's like, "Are you enjoying the weather?" And I'm like, "Yes, in fact, I am." Meanwhile, he's in sweats and everything, and he's complaining. The one thing I hate is when people complain how hot it is. First of all, it's like this is the first day like we've had of 90-degree weather. Like, calm down, buddy. It just started. We just finished fucking winter. Like, can we like get a break? Can I get a break? Can I get one day? And I told him, I was just like, at this point, I'm a dick. And I told him, like, I actually wish it was 100. So, and he's like, ah. But you're in sweats. There's a whole heat wave advisory outside. Like, what are you doing, guy? Seriously, like I don't know what even to tell you at this point. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Everybody knows I love my Red Bulls. But lately, Red Bull has been like not giving me my wings. I don't know what's happening. So I stumbled upon this other brand, Alani. Somebody told me to try. What is it? Oh man. Oh, Bloom. They told me to try Bloom. So I'm gonna try that one too. I think I've tried Bloom before and I didn't like it. But if anybody is interested, this is where's my camera shot? Here we go. This is the drink, Alani. It's gluten free, which I didn't even know. I'm vegan if you're interested. Listen, I am one person, and everybody who knows me, I don't really like I'm not the most health conscious person in the world. Like I love my pizza. I love my chips. And everybody knows I've gained, a couple of pounds, okay, a few, ever since my surgery, and I have lost a lot of weight. I've lost about 20 pounds now. So I still have a little bit more to go. I would say in another 10, and I will feel comfortable in my skin. But don't take me for being a health nut. I will tell you what is good and what is, and it's probably going to be bad. So, um, but this actually is pretty good. This flavor is pink passion. No, I lied. It's pink slush. Can't even get that right. But anywho, it's my birthday weekend. So I'm gonna go to the beach tomorrow. I'm gonna get some fun in the sun. So, we're gonna doozy it up. That's some speed. I love it. Um I could not wait to get into this episode today. This is probably the more I get very excited for certain ones, and then there's a few of them where I get excited for all of them. No, okay. There's a few that I get excited for. I'm fibbing now. Pinocchio. Um, but the crash, I've known about this story for a couple of years now. I remember when the case was going on, and um I remember specifically, I will never ever forget watching Mackenzie Shrilla um not have any empathy, not having a care in the world. And there have been a few court cases where I've seen and said, nah, this person is guilty. And then there's others that I have been where I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I need more details. But this particular case, I remember specifically, and I remember saying to myself, I'm like, I kind of feel like this case is going to end up coming back into my space for some weird reason. And here we go, like this case was back in 2022 and we're now in 2026 still talking about this. This has to be the most craziest, um, self absorbed when it comes to Mackenzie herself, Case, Eva, and I love the fact that I actually waited to talk about this because so much has come out and so many people are, talking about it on social media. But I think what happens is that people get so excited and they rush and they get on social media and they start talking about it, but they haven't seen everything. And I'm not saying people are defending Mackenzie, they definitely, had their share of stuff to say about it. But, the fact that we have now the dad coming out and he's just, you can see a whole different side of him, which we will get into. But I also had the liberty of listening to all the jail phone calls, which was not privy at that time. So the fact that now I can listen to those recordings and you actually get more of a glimpse, more of kind of a window to the person who she really is. And I walked away saying, you know, the amount of time that was given to her wasn't enough. She really should be in jail for the rest of her life. She's just doesn't get what she's done. And the fact that, in these recordings, it's so disgusting, the conversations between her and her mom, which is such a bad influence on her. It doesn't help her. It just makes it even worse. And you can understand why so many people are just disgusted and and she has fans, people are supporting her, which is crazy to me. But it is what it is. It's social media. You have that love-hate relationship and you'll never understand it. Um, but if for those that want to watch it, now here's the thing. What I'm going to advise everybody: if you guys want to watch The Crash, watch it on Netflix, but also watch the Hulu version. There is another version also. It's like kind of a small little documentary on YouTube, which I watched as well. And you can also, to make it easier to access than going onto the jailhouse websites, if you guys want to listen to the phone calls, they actually have them on TikTok. So you can watch them, you can listen to them there, or you can actually go on YouTube and you can listen to them there. So it is, you could get some things are cut off. So I listened to there was almost like, it was so long. It was like 40 minutes long. I'm like, how long are these fucking phone calls? Don't you have a time limit? Like, my God. And these have to be expensive phone calls. But the Netflix version, that one brings you back to July 2022. Shrilla was driving her 20-year-old boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and their best friend, or friend to her, but it was more Dominic's best friend, 19-year-old friend, Davian Flanagan, when the vehicle crashed into a brick building in Strongsville, Ohio. While the crash initially appeared to be in a tragic accident, investigations found no mechanical failures and noted that Shrill was wearing her seatbelt while the passengers were not. Prosecutors successfully argued that she used the vehicle as a weapon to murder her boyfriend and best friend, and was convicted to murder in 2023 and sentenced to life in prison. Now, um, what was that? I heard something that scared the crap out of me. It was like a click. So basically, what happened was they give you more of a glimpse in Netflix of, the relationship between Dominic and Mackenzie, who were dating for over 4 years. This relationship, it was interesting to me, and they say it more in the Netflix, and you get more of Dominic's background on Hulu, which, because at some point I was like, he's lavishing this girl with gifts, and they say it in the Netflix. uh Mackenzie's mom, she's like, yeah, Dominic would, lavish her with gifts and all these expensive things, and we didn't know where all this money was coming from. But, she always had designer stuff and whatnot. And they never really go into detail of where, how successful Dominic was. And on the Hulu documentary, which is why I expressed that, you should watch both so you guys can get more of kind of a glimpse and more of a window of how their backgrounds and how they came together and why their relationship was so toxic. um but Dominic, a 20 who was 21 years old, was doing amazing. He invested into Bitcoin. I wish I would have invested into Bitcoin when it first came out. I would freaking have loved it. But so when something's so new, you just don't really know. But he invested in Bitcoin. He had investments. He had his own house. He had a studio downstairs where he was interested in music and whatnot. So he was doing big things for himself. Now, unfortunately, this is where you can kind of sympathize with Mackenzie. And again, just a little, because when you're 17 years old and you're in that teen era, if your boyfriend cheats on you, you still stay with him, right? Because you love him. But on one part of it, it's because of the lifestyle that he lived, that trust is broken. You can never trust again. You're always going to constantly be wondering, okay, he said he was going here. I haven't heard from him. Where is he? What is he doing? She started staying at his house at a very young age, around 17. The parents were okay with this. I don't have a problem with this, okay? Because I was very young when I moved in with my ex-boyfriend, and I was, very young also. I was in my teens. I don't have a problem with this. A lot of people are kind of like, oh my God, the parents, blah, blah. I can't blame the parents about this. No, this is a very normal kind of thing that happens, depending on, your household. So that I didn't mind so much. Um, what was crazy to me was the parents were aware of Mackenzie and what she was doing as far as her bringing in income. In the documentary, they did say that, she wanted to be a social media influencer. She wanted to do all of these things. But she was also sending nudes to guys on social media. And, supposedly brands were like reaching out to her, but this was something that she always wanted to do, was be this famous person, this big huge social media influencer. And she was going to do whatever she needed to do to basically get into the game. Her parents followed her on social media. They followed her on TikTok. They followed her on Instagram, anything that she was on, especially her mom, who was her biggest supporter. Now, and they smoked. Here's the thing. When you're in your teens, and everybody that has, unless you're one of those people that's like never done drugs or never drank or anything, like kudos to you. But when you're in high school, okay, you're in with your little cliques, okay, and you're either drinking or you're getting high or you're doing whatever it is as a teenager when you go out. This is very normal activity, okay? Again, now unless like you're into like a whole thing, like you have frat boys, doing cocaine and all of this other stuff. So this for me was not like a big like she's smoking. I, as a parent, seeing videos of your child driving and smoking, I would have definitely been like, you know what, let's have a conversation. But her mom would support these things. They knew what was going on. Now, the one takeaway, there's many takeaways in this show, but The take one on the list takeaway from this episode, I really do believe that Mackenzie's parents should have never done this documentary. First of all, this is not a good look. You're trying to appeal her case right now, which it did end up getting denied. But you're trying to make your daughter look like a certain image, right? And they completely like just made her look even worse. The dad is on there. He's like, yeah, well, listen, I smoked weed. She smoked weed. Who cares? Like, it is what it is. So I can't lock her in her room. I can't do this. I can't do that. He gave so many excuses of that this was okay behavior. At this point, he's still working at um a Catholic school. I'm not sure if he was, I did believe he was like a teacher or something like that. They ended up after this documentary released, they ended up suspending him. He ended up leaving the job. There was no way that they were going to bring him back. You work for a Catholic school. I would have literally went in there and be like, I ended up finding this out. I should have done better, not cover it up and say, well, we spoke to her or whatever, because we all know that this was going on for so long that you allowed it to happen. But you could have came back in that conversation and said, I could have done better as a parent. I really should have said to her, this is not appropriate. You're still a child. I'm still your parent, whatever it is you wanted to say. But at this point, it's already out there where you said, I do, I've smoked weed. She smokes weed. It's all right. Whatever. Kids are kids and blah, blah, blah. You made no excuse for it. That right there, red flag, check, not good. Two, now they're explaining the whole story. They're explaining, they're showing now the details of, she had her seatbelt on in the car. They go into the car crash. She ends up surviving this huge car crash, and Davion, Davion and Dominic don't have their seatbelts on. Whether or not if they would have survived the car crash or not, we will never know. We will never know what that conversation was. I can guarantee you, though, knowing the facts that we know now about the jealousy, she states in a conversation with her mom in one of the jail recordings that she woke up at one point and she didn't see Dominic, and she couldn't understand where Dominic was. And she probably was having an argument in the car about this. And she brought it up. And he probably said something, set it off or whatever. The detectives were able to prove that this accident was not an accident, that it was intentional, because she never released her foot off the gas. There was a black box in the car, and it actually indicates, how fast, or if you take your foot off the gas and hit the brake and whatnot. And it was accelerated at 100%, which means that she never ever took her foot off that gas. At one point, they do notice that the car went into neutral, which I am hypothetically saying, I assume at this point that either Davion or Dominic were trying to get control of the car. They probably put it in neutral, trying to slow the car down or have some type of control. Who knows? Again, we'll never really know what happened in the car, but I can assume that they were all just freaking out, and that's what was happening in the vehicle at this point. Boom. It hits the brick wall. The cops are on the scene. She has her seatbelt on. Davion's in the back. He flies into the front. That literally the cops say that Davion was on Dominic's like his thighs in the front seat. He was, um, but they were pronounced dead. They go and they show her in the hospital. Now, and she asks asks about Dominic. They tell her that he's dead. Instead of now, a normal reaction to this would have been stay off social media, don't post anything. You know, would you be even to have that thought in your head if you weren't, thinking, mentally that you just committed this crime? She goes on social media, she starts posting, and she's continuing to live her life. Now, here's this part where I'll probably get myself into trouble. But people wanted to use a lot of the social media stuff. Time has passed. Not a lot of time, but a lot of time has passed. And she's posting, 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 posting. And they're like, well, this is the type of person that she is. Here's the thing. One, I'm going to remove the social media posts only because you really put out on social media what you want people to see. But you don't really know how someone's feeling. You don't really know what's going on in the background. But, again, she's a very unempathetic person. So, it is what it is at the end of the day. But I don't believe that she really cared enough. She was really just about having her photos out there. But I hate it when people use social media like, oh, yeah, she was just like living it up and blah, blah, blah. We don't really know that. When you post something, even with myself, when I post stuff, you don't know what's going on. I could be depressed and blue to the world, but because I'm a social media influencer and I'm just trying to get my videos out there to keep the entertainment going. But once my videos are done for the day, I'm living my regular life. I really have to be like, okay, well, whatever. I just hate, where are my potato chips? Like I'm still, that part of it doesn't go away. So anyways, I'm just saying, so that part of it, I was kind of just like, I don't want to like dig too deep on that. So now she goes to court. There's this whole court case, and Dominic's brother, you see him in an interview with the cops, and he did speak about, he's like, look, Dominic really wanted to break up with Mackenzie so many times. He was going to leave her. He didn't want to be with her. This was 2 weeks prior to the relationship. She had also said that she was going to crash the car and she was going to kill them. And Dominic's mom and stepfather had to intervene into this, where he ended up picking up Dominic. So this has always been set in motion for Mackenzie, that this was going to happen and she was going to continue to do this. On November 4th of 2022, Mackenzie was actually arrested and she was convicted with 2 counts of aggravated murder. Now, this is where you see the court stuff and you see everything's coming out. She goes to jail. She ended up getting 2 counts of 15 years for Dominic and another 15 years for Davion. So right now she's serving the 15 years for Dominic, and after 15 years, she will be eligible parole. She will be in her 30s when this happens. And the problem with this case is that as this case is continuing, to be such a huge light, and I've spoken to a couple of people that are attorneys that I know, and they do this for a living. And they've told me, they're like, look, it is really, really hard to get out on parole. after you've served X amount of time. One, she doesn't have the greatest record right now. She has already had so many issues in jail that the parole board hearing is not going to go in her favor. Two, if I was the family, I would definitely show up when this happens, so that way they can deny the parole. They have the right to continue to deny, and make her go through this. Now, as far as Davion's case, she'll have to go back to court. There'll be another retrial for that, and then she'll get sentenced for, she'll end up probably going back to jail for that, or they'll look at everything. So I'm not sure exactly how this works when they do it that way, that's why I think it's kind of crazy. They should have just put it all together and then just let her serve her time. But because there has been so much information that has come out, I think the parole hearing is not going to go well in her favor. I think they're going to be like, okay, oh, what? And when this does happen, I definitely do think that the parole board, the people that she has to speak to, should really look into, which I have the biggest problem with. She has been speaking into this language, which I ended up cracking the case on that one. You hear in a couple of the phone calls where she's talking this language. They call it pig language. And a lot of people were like, I don't know what it is. It's either carny, it's something. It's so the dad, because now the dad is pissed, okay? And he's been trying to, like I said, he's been trying to get this image of his daughter out there. And what I don't like is when the family of the person that is incarcerated, they try to make their family member look good. In this case, it's her dad. He's trying to make her look so good, so to get her out of jail, that he's only making himself look worse. The mom is sending her all of these things. So basically, whatever she wants, she's getting because her mom is sending it to her. So she's living this very lavish jailhouse prison life. Which now her girlfriend, she ended up having a relationship in jail and got a girlfriend, and the girlfriend got out, and she's like, yeah, she was never empathetic about the boyfriend. She's never said anything. She's always said that she doesn't remember what happened, but I think that she has to go with this. I think she does know what happened. I think she remembers what happened. I think when the crash happened at that moment, you tend to go into a fog. It's kind of like when you get into a fight with somebody and you're like, and people tell you like, yo, you were like doing this to this person, but you don't remember because you're in the fight. And then after some time has passed, you start piecing things and you're like, oh yeah, and then this happened. Oh yeah, and then this happened. I think that's what happened. I think she does remember what happened, but at this point she can't say what happened because she's in this appeal, right? Two, um, I think the conversations, which like I said, she's been talking in this language with her mom. And her dad came out and he confirmed it's gypsy language. So I think somebody out there who knows how to speak gypsy really needs to like narrow down and listen to this and see what they're actually saying before the parole hearing happens. And if the family members were smart, they would definitely seek somebody that speaks this language. So that way, because I truly believe that she's confessing to something. It would not make sense for her to speak gypsy if she wanted to hide anything, because she's very open about everything else. There's this joke with Kim Kardashian. She's like, oh my God, her mom tells her, oh, it's all over the news. Oh my God, it's in so many countries and whatnot. She's like, well, maybe Kim Kardashian will get me out and blah, blah, because in this point, she still thinks she's innocent and she should not be in jail. You just killed two people. How unempathetic can you be right now? And you're like, you're just thinking about fame. And then she's like talking about, she's like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy that got out of prison and he became this whole supermodel. I forgot his name, which he did for his eyes. He was very attractive. But this tells you this is a person that has not fully taken in of what she's done. And those people that are like, yeah, we're going to make you into, I can see it happening because of that. But this is not okay. So I really do think that the family members have to kind of get somebody involved to try and crack whatever it is that they're speaking well, the gypsy, whatever they're saying to each other, because I can guarantee you she's probably saying, she's like, I know, I killed them or whatever it is, allegedly. But she's saying something where she wants it to be hidden. And somebody who doesn't care and is talking about fame and everything, they're saying it clear as day and on the recordings. Why would you hide something else? It doesn't make sense. Why are you going to hide something else? It just makes sense that you would start speaking into a language for people not to understand, um, in order to say something that you don't want the world to know. And I think eventually that will come out. Um, the fact that the dad is so open and he's just going out. He looks a hot mess. Like from when he did the interviews for Hulu and for Netflix. You can tell that his world is crumbling right now and everything is he's probably getting hate mail. He's probably getting threats, because these things usually do happen. Social media can either be your friend or it could be your enemy. Okay. So that's why they always say you got to be careful with what you say and what you put out there and what you want people, what you want to disclose out there. The mother, again, terrible, is just trying to be the cool parent. It's like, oh, dim, 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 dim. You should be saying, this is not okay. You killed two people. You really need to, think about it and, really have remorse. I feel bad for Dominic's family, especially his sister. His sister's been speaking out a lot on TikTok, and I know we're a little bit over, guys, but I'm wrapping it up. Um, but she's like, her worst fear is that this is gonna happen. She's gonna get out. She's gonna be this famous influencer and she's gonna, right now, it's happening. They do get access to tablets and she's able to post things and her social media is climbing, while she's in jail. I have no idea why this girl would go on Netflix, do an interview, which I thought was stupid because she couldn't really say anything. She's just like, I have never actually spoken and let people know my feelings on this. Girl, at this point, you should have just not said anything. Keep yourself out of the limelight, because it doesn't help your case. Either way, like I stated before, I don't think that she's going to get parole. I think she's had so much confrontation in jail. She's been in trouble so many times. There's a list that they've put out there of things that she's assaulted. She's been bullying in there. Like, these are things that are, if you're this type of person, you're this type of person. It's just not going away. And the proof is in the pudding. So you get what you get. What is that saying? What's good for the goose ain't good for the gander, kind of situation. So, but we'll see. Like I said, she's probably going to be released at, she'll be around 36, which is still, she's not going to be able to get a job. So she may be on OnlyFans. I don't know. But that's if the parole releases her. That's only serving Dominic's time. That's not serving the other 15 years for Davion. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have anybody that's not following the show and you enjoy the episode, you enjoy my show, definitely spread the word, get more followers in. I love you guys so much. Next week's episode is The Price is Right, Bob Barker. This actually leaves me a little sad because I did like Bob Barker until I found out that he was a racist. Oh, you know, everybody just lets you down. All right, guys. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Enjoy the weather. Um, Keep smiling, keep being positive. Don't let anybody break you. There's so many haters out there. There's so many people that would love to do what you're doing, but don't have the balls to do it. So please keep pushing through, keep being creative, keep being you, and don't worry about others. All right. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.